Hi, Jessica. Thanks for jumping in the chat. How is everyone doing? For those of you who are here. Danny, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Good. I feel like the nerves have subsided and the excitement and groundedness have kicked in.
Good. How's
You?
the coffee?
That's great.
Good.
It's actually really good.
I always feel nervous right up until we start seeing people's faces.
Are we seeing? I don't only see your face right now. Why do I only see your face? Oh,
Top
wow.
right.
I just realized there's a whole bunch of people. Hi. Hi, Isis. Hi, Russell. Wow. I thought it was just Aaron and I in here. Thank God I didn't see anything crazy. Imagine.
You're good. You're good.
Good. If folks are comfortable, cameras on do make these sessions a little bit more personal. I know it's the end of day and folks are tired, but if your background isn't too messy and you're not in a robe, I encourage you to.
Although we welcome you in a robe.
We welcome you in a robe, in a bonnet, everything. Belonging. What do you think about kicking off at 3:05?
Sure. I feel as though we may be getting just like a brief intro before we get going. So maybe
Right.
let's hold off
Karen.
until we, yeah.
Great. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for putting a camera.
Now, this is always the moment where I wish we'd gone the extra step and picked a song.
I'm pretty sure I We're good.
Hi, everybody that's joining. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Hello. Hi, Linda.
Is everyone currently in Georgia or are folks working out of state?
No, I'm in Georgia. I know there are a few folks who are a little bit further afield, but I think 90% of us are physically in Georgia.
Right. Thank you. Are Karen and Billy in here yet? Karen? I don't think so.
I haven't seen their names, no.
Hello to everyone joining.
Recording in progress.
Or maybe we just kind of pull up any song that we have on our Korean playlist.
Give me one moment. You're sharing screen, so it should come from you.
Right, okay.
And then you'll share audio as well.
Great. So I just got to note that some folks are in another meeting, so kind of might trickle in slowly. Just gonna wait for Karen and Bill maybe.
I think that's a good move. Hi, Fiona.
I'm gonna click this. Speakers. Or click on that. It's like, oh.
Is it possible that there may be 2 links for this event? Just got an email from Bill.
Lisa, do you want to look into that? I only got one link.
So if I could say, the invitation was marked new room. And so I mean, I think it was sent out so long ago that I don't remember exactly, but that suggests that there may have been an old room and some people might be in the old room.
Got it. I thought you meant new room as in like our.
I mean, hey, well,
I was like, we got an invite with new room on it? Got it.
hey,
Hey,
not in my house, same old room.
hey
Hi,
guys.
Michelle. Hi.
Michelle, I'm looking at the invitation and there are actually 2 different links. The one that's in the location has one meeting number, and then the one that's actually in the body of the meeting invitation is different.
Mm.
Can you guys see that?
We don't have the same, we got one link only, so I'm just kind of deferring maybe to Lisa, if you can look into that for us.
Or Michelle, could you maybe go into the other Zoom link and drop the link to this meeting? Would that be possible?
Yep, I'll do that. I'll be back.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. I'll pull up some music in the meantime.
We were bound to have at least one technical glitch.
Bound.
The theme at the Health Policy Center is being flexible and adaptive, so we will continue to do so.
Very, very fitting.
Appreciate that. Daniel, can you stop share and then reshare with sound? There you go. Maybe just volume down a little bit. Better.
You say you like the wind blowing through your hair. Well, come on, roll with me.
Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Texas sun. Say you wanna hit the highway while the engine roars. Well, come on, roll with me till the sun goes down. The Texas sun, oh yeah. Texas sun, caressing you from Fort Worth to Amarillo. Well, come on, roll with me till the sun dips low. Texas sun, Texas sun, oh girl. Texas sun.
She was like, it's audio not working. I was like, no, they're all on mute. She was like, I'd be quick to find a reason to bounce. I feel you. No, she's like, make sure I have her camera on.
We have an influx of people coming in.
Amazing.
Oh, you was hiding it. Oh, you was hiding it.
Dorian, you're not on mute.
Thank you, Deborah. Hi, everybody. Lots more faces. Good to see. Great, great, great.
Are Karen and or Bill?
I saw Bill's name. Yep.
I'm here.
Hi, Bill.
Karen should be here any moment. The whole group
Great.
is switching over.
Okay.
Hello to all the new faces. Thanks again for the patience to those who were with us. Bill, maybe you could give us a heads up when you feel as though we have all landed and arrived.
Nope.
I think whenever Karen comes in, that will be your clue that we have all landed.
Got it.
Well, I'm here. I'm not sure if
She
everybody
is.
is.
Hi there, Karen.
There were 45 of us in the other room.
Oh, wow. Okay. Karen, we'll wait for your green light.
Okay, well, I think we should go ahead and get started. And do you want to say anything before I do the opening comments?
We actually have a moment set aside for you to share about 15 minutes in. We wanted to give some context about the program before you jump in, if that's okay.
All right, great.
Okay.
Great. Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for taking 2 whole hours of your time and your days to have these rare kind of moments, everyone together. We are extremely mindful of everyone's capacity and, both work capacity, but emotional and physical capacity as well. So we have designed this session to make it as immersive and interactive, but also kind of time friendly as well. My name is Danielle Jocelyn O'Toole. I am one half of New Room. We will be taking some time to present ourselves in a bit. However, I just wanted to kick off this session by giving you folks a little bit of context on why we're here, what led us here. We had been selected by the Inclusion Council to lead a series of Jedi workshops back in the month of March. Our process prior to taking on any new initiative is always to thoroughly investigate the context of the space that we're walking into in order for these conversations and these spaces to be as relevant to you folks and your lived experience as possible. And so what Erin and I did was take some time to analyze the comments from the comment box dating from, I think, up until 2020 backwards. We also took some time to read and listen to some transcribed interviews from the Inclusion Council. We also took some time to speak to some of you at different levels of the organization to also get a sense of what you feel might be helpful in these conversations. And it's with all of that information and that wealth of knowledge that we've designed these sessions to truly speak to what we heard from you. And we landed on the name Cultivating Belonging and Togetherness at GHPC because we felt that it spoke to your needs the best. I'm going to pass it on to my partner, Erin, to kick us off with a land acknowledgement before we get into things.
Thank you, Danny. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us. As we always do at the beginning of these programs, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we have the privilege to live, work, breathe, and grow on. Danny and I are in Jugjaga, which is also known as Montreal in the province of Quebec in Canada. And we recognize and acknowledge these lands as the traditional unceded lands of the Gunyunkahaga Nation. GHPC is located on the traditional territory of the Muskogee Nation. And we know this is a virtual session, so you may or may not be in the same area as the GHPC building, but we wanted to take a moment to allow you all to ground and acknowledge where it is that you are and to take a moment to contemplate your relationship with the land and your relationship with the Indigenous peoples and original stewards of the land. So take a moment. Sorry, Simone. Okay. Take a moment to plant your 2 feet and in whatever way feels right for you, acknowledge the land and the Indigenous peoples. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Deborah. So my name is Erin Willett. I am, as Danny mentioned, one half of New Room, and it's really a absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure to be here with you all. So within the context of New Room, what I do is learning experience and program design. This is very much a supporting role in support of Danielle Jocelyn, Danny, DJ, so many nicknames, such a beautiful person. And the work that Danny does is very much about building the content and the theory around the inclusion, diversity, equity, anti-racism, and social impact content that you'll all be moving through within this program. My role is to help her to build out exercises and a learning experience that allows you all to integrate what it is that you're taking in, to move through it on a personal level, and to surface whatever ideas and feelings and new perspectives may come to light. I want to give you a little bit of context about me. We'll be seeing each other 4 times over the next couple of months, so I think it's important that we get to know each other a bit. I grew up in the subarctic of the province of Quebec in a very small mining town, but I spent most of my time in the Niskapi Nation of Kawawachikamachi, where my parents were teachers. I grew up in an environment where I was hyper aware of my whiteness and my responsibility as a white person from a very early age. And specifically, we would spend a lot of time as a family discussing and unpacking the notion of being visitors and being guests on the land where I grew up. I mention this because this piece of my identity of being a visitor and being a guest is something that I bring into all the spaces that I enter into, and I bring it with me today and in all the future sessions that I will be co-hosting with Danny for GHPC. I see myself here as a visitor, as a guest. I have open ears, an open mind, and very much I'm here to learn without assumptions about all of you. So I'll pass it off to Danny so she can intro herself, and then I'll step in to give you more information about the program. You're muted, Danny.
Just realized. So my name is Danielle Jocelyn. O2, my pronouns are she, her. I am originally born in Dakar, Senegal, from Cameroonian parents. Immigrated to Canada when I was 3 years old. And this land and the opportunities that I have been able to navigate as a result of being here have very much shaped the work that I do. I was like Erin, oftentimes aware of the fact that this was not my land and that I was also a visitor. And so this notion of building bridges between my community and the communities that I was occupying, oftentimes predominantly as a Black woman, really, really shaped my perception of the world and the work that I do. I have worked in social innovation and social impact for the last 5+ years, have a background in human relations and organizational development, and recently specialized in social innovation design at UPenn, really in hopes to further understand how to collectively move us forward from this tricky times, for lack of better words, that we are navigating.
So we are going to be moving you all through multiple exercises throughout this entire program, this 4-part program. Some of them are going to be very personal. Some of them are going to be peer-to-peer, more group exchange. We want to help you to dip your toe into the concept of exercising with us and doing these practices with us. With a really simple one, we'd like you to answer the 2 questions or fill in the blank. You think I'm a blank, but really I'm a blank. Pick an animal that represents how you believe you are perceived, and then pick one that represents how you feel you truly are, who you feel you truly are. And we'd love it for those who are ready to, that you share these in the comments or in the chat box. This exercise is really just about understanding very simplistically that we are so much more than how we are initially perceived. We are so much more complex than others would believe. As you all contemplate it, Danny, do you want to share yours?
I'm going to try to switch it up for this time. People think I'm maybe a dragon. Is this a dragon that's under the peacock? I think so.
Sure.
But really, I'm like this little chick, you know, just like a little soft and sensitive and yeah, young at heart.
That's funny. I was going to say chick too, but I was not going to say, I was going to say people think I'm a chick in the sense of being maybe a little naive and altruistic and idealistic in my perspective of the world. But in reality, I view myself more as a snail, very adventurous, carrying my home with me wherever I go and with my antenna up all the time, kind of absorbing as much information as possible. Who else has one? Please feel free to drop it. Thank you, Rachel.
A robot, but really I'm a goat. I'm a dove. I'm really a dove with the power transform to charge and protective elephant. Oh, wow. Chris, deep.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
These are great.
These are
great.
Okay. Thank you for dropping those. You're going to have lots of opportunities to continue engaging, and we hope that you do throughout this session and all the other ones that are coming up in the comment box. Also in the open exchanges, there are going to be lots of opportunities for that. For the next 15 minutes or so, you're going to hear me talking. This is not the way it's usually going to be. Typically, Danny's going to be your lead facilitator, and we're going to be doing a lot more kind of experiential exercises and that sort of thing. But in today's session specifically, we wanted to give you an opportunity to get to know our approach, understand what inspired the New Room program, the program that we're all walking you through, and just kind of frame what it is that we're getting into. So sit back, get comfortable, bear with me while I talk for many minutes. So Danny and I, we're here to facilitate and hold space for you wherever it is that you find yourself right now, today, and on this journey of engaging in justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And we want to take a moment to acknowledge that this is a journey that all of us are walking individually. All of us are starting at a very different point from the person beside us, or from the person whose little thumbnail is beside us on this Zoom call. And wherever it is that you are starting, we have space for it and we hold space for it. Contextually, societally, things are heavy. They weigh heavy on our hearts, on our shoulders, on our minds, and our spirits. And before we dive into the specific context at GHPC, we wanted to take a moment to start off this session and hold particular space for the Black and Indigenous folks, for AAPI folks, for queer and trans folks, and for women who are currently fighting for rights to their bodies and lands. It can be difficult entering into this program, which is so very specific and is this 2-hour moment over Zoom. It can be difficult to recognize the connection and the bridge between what we're doing here and what's happening societally. Fundamentally, Danny and I believe that the only way for us to have impact societally is to plant seeds where we have impact and influence directly around us. Pardon me. Okay. So this is the intention of the program that we're getting into today. Thank you, Denny. Are you clicking or am I clicking? Just double checking here. Okay. Sorry, everybody. We will figure out this. We're sharing screens right now. Okay. So the intention of this 4-part program is to plant seeds for a more just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive GHPC. We've talked about being on a journey. We've talked about planting seeds. This is a marathon, not a sprint. This is a program that's going to span far beyond just these 4 sessions that we're having together. Our hope is to create a space where you can engage with this work, this hard work, in a meaningful way beyond just GHPC, but also for yourselves within the communities that you take part. We want this to be a personal experience as well as a professional one, because we believe that the only way for us to engage in this work in a way that truly transforms how we relate is to engage with it very personally. We know that saying that sort of thing can be a little confronting. It's scary to confront ourselves. It's scary to acknowledge our own biases. It's scary to acknowledge the power dynamics that we may perpetuate. It's heavy work to get into. So Danny and I do our best to create an environment where you can engage personally in a way that feels safe for you. We have 4 key values that shape how we build our program out, which I'm going to talk you through right now. These, did I say 4? I meant 6. So we have 6 key values that shape how we build out our programs. The first key word that we want you to be looking at is this acronym IDEAS. We've already heard inclusion, diversity, equity, anti-racism, and social impact. This is the acronym that we choose to use to shape how we approach programming for the people that we work with. Some people call it JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Some people call it EDI, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. GHPC, and within the context of this program, we will be using JEDI. But for us, IDEAS is important for 2 reasons. First of all, we want to explicitly name the A, anti-racism. And we wanted to end our acronym with the S of social impact. Why? Because we believe that what we're working towards here is social impact. And the only way for us to get there is to move through the lenses of inclusion, diversity, equity, anti-racism. The next core value that's important in the way that we shape our programs is the core value of awareness. We can't do this work meaningfully unless we are open to the experience of exploring ourselves and the ways in which we impact and influence the systems around us. So this program is designed to offer you opportunities to explore yourself, explore how you can contribute to your own personal healing as well as the collective healing that we're all working towards. On the notion of collectivity, this word is important for us because we believe that when we're talking about collectivity, we are talking about the collective power of individuals all working towards shared goals. So in the notion of awareness, we're talking about you as an individual and how you engage in this work. With the notion of collectivity, we're talking about all of us collectively working towards the direction we are aiming for. So we want to create opportunities for community, for collaboration, for connection, and for learning from one another. The fourth value here is the word power, which we know can feel extremely heavy. And it is quite a heavy word, very honestly, as we all know. So the notion of power here, the reason that we bring it up is because we want to support all of you in exploring and redefining what power means for you. We want to give people who are traditionally in positions of power the opportunity to distribute the power that they have so that ideas can be surfaced and people can be empowered to collectively contribute to visioning a future that is more holistically equitable. Fifth value is the notion of innovation. We believe that the work that we are doing here in engaging in ideas, in engaging in building a more just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive GHPC is innovation work. We are here to reimagine. We are here to come up with new ways of being, new ways of relating, new ways of learning, new ways of communicating. And innovation work is fundamentally about discomfort. It's about failure. It's about learning how to do something new. So we're mentioning this one specifically because there are parts of this process that are going to be uncomfortable. There are parts of this process where you're going to be learning something new. That is a part of this for every single one of us, including Danny and I, as we move through this. The final word we want to mention as a core value is the word emergence. This is very much inspired by the process and nature of new things coming to life, new things coming through the dirt and arising. We build our program in a way that the elements, the ideas, the perspectives, the feelings that want to come to the surface have space to come to the surface. We believe that we can only engage in this innovation work, in this social impact work, if we allow the things that want to be recognized, the feelings that want to be acknowledged, to have space in order for us to do so. Okay. The final note on our program design is this one here. So we believe systemic change, the systemic change we all want to be a part of contributing to, can only happen when we move through the experience of processing it on a level of ourselves, our community, and then systemically. So throughout this program, you're going to have opportunities to look at how you personally engage with the concepts that we're going to be teaching you, that Danny's going to be walking you through. We're going to have opportunities to look at communities and how, as a community of care, we can change the way we are engaging at GHPC. And then we're also going to be looking at the systems that are at play and how, when we work through the layers of self and community, we can begin to influence and impact the systems that are at play. Thank you so much for sitting with me and listening to all of that. I'm going to give you a rundown of the program right now. If at any point, by the way, I feel like I'm doing so much talking and I can't feel anyone's energy right now, so I'm not sure how any of this is landing, but if ever at any point you have a question, again, feel free to jump into comments. We're here for it. So the program is a 4-part program. You may have gotten some invites to some of these sessions. So the first one is today's laying the land. In today's session, we're going to be establishing shared language, a shared starting point, and a shared vision for the work that we're here to do. Our second session is called Critical Self-Reflection, and a note on the second and third session. Both of these are going to be done in smaller groups because we want to create more of an opportunity for collaboration, interaction, more space and intimacy for exchange. So with critical self-reflection, we're looking at power dynamics, we're looking at privilege, and we're looking at understanding our own individual roles and influence in impacting the systems that are at play. Third session is called Understanding Systems and Building Communities of Care. This is one where we'll be looking at how we can nurture togetherness at GHPC in order to redefine the dominant systems that influence process, that influence the ways that we relate and the ways that we engage together. Finally, our fourth session, we're back to being all hands. Everyone's going to be in on this one. It's called Moving from Intention to Impact. And during this session, we're going to be looking at what we've learned, what ideas were surfaced, what insights were surfaced. We're going to have opportunities to exchange, learn from the other people around you who went through the program with you. And then we're going to be looking at transformative next steps. So how can we move from looking at this through a transactional lens of having completed the program into a much more transformational lens of how can we engage and change the way that we are working and relating with each other moving forward. Some very specifics about today's session. This is what we're going to be moving through. The first thing we're going to do is align as a team around the vision and intention of the equity efforts thus far at the center. We're going to be hearing from Karen specifically, who's going to talk through what's happened at GHPC and where GHPC will be taking steps next. We're then going to establish shared language and get clear on the difference between justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And then we're going to be doing some exercises to acknowledge where we currently stand as a center, what is the current context as it pertains to a culture of belonging, and what can we visualize for the future of the center as it pertains to a culture of belonging. Okay, at this point, you've heard from me enough. Karen, we'd like to invite you to share some words. Let us know where GHPC is now, what has been done so far, and where we intend to go.
Hello, everybody. I'm really glad that we are finally at this place in our journey. This is exciting that the Inclusion Council has worked tirelessly to think about how to create the opportunity for everybody at the Health Policy Center to have exposure to this content that Erin has just described, some of which the Inclusion Council had an opportunity to participate in this similar type of content in 2020. And the group worked to interview various different folks and chose Danny and Erin as the folks from New Room to help us with this. And so what I wanted to just step back and say, at the Health Policy Center, we have been focusing on these issues of justice, equity, diversity, inclusion in multiple ways. We recognize that what we're doing is a start in every way and is not all that we ever need to do, and that we are imperfect at times, but we're trying in multiple ways. And some of the ways that we're trying include the development of the Inclusion Council. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that in a moment. We also have an equity work group that is focused more on the content of our projects and how we address issues of equity in our projects. And we have a pilot that is being implemented that was designed by the members of that equity work group. We also have some work that's being done in the executive team with a coach and a group, the Equity Learning Lab, that has been provided to us by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And so in that work, the executive team has studied multiple modules of issues and information. They have attended sessions with people from other organizations that are part of this and been a part of some smaller groups. And we've also had a coach who has helped us to think about what are the things that are important to us to address at the organizational level and to begin to address those. And you've heard us talking about this along the way. All of these things are important and insufficient because there's more that we want to do. And I really love one of the things that Danny and Aaron recommended is how we would call this work Cultivating Belonging and Togetherness at the Health Policy Center. And I think that is some of what we really want for the future, is for us to have this culture of belonging and togetherness for everyone that's at the Health Policy Center. And this set of workshops that we're going to be doing together is one way that we attempt to address that. And we look forward to what comes out of this. I'm sure there'll be some ideas of things that we can do more or differently that will help us be even better in this journey. I wanted to say just a few words about the Inclusion Council, because in addition to focusing on this particular opportunity, the Inclusion Council also did a charter. And this charter is designed to help guide the Inclusion Council in their work of providing leadership in the Health Policy Center in these issues of diversity, inclusion, equity, and justice. And they have addressed each of those along with the purpose of the Inclusion Council, which part of the purpose is to provide advice to the pause group and the executive team on how we might think more about these issues and the things that we might do to be a liaison with staff, to provide resources for the staff. The charter also includes a section about the kinds of committees and subgroups that the Inclusion Council will have, as well as some principles and rules of engagement. An important part of the charter is the structure of the Inclusion Council, which includes representation from all the different levels and types of people at the Health Policy Center, when the Inclusion Council will meet, how the meetings will be run. And this is a very important part of the work. And this is an area where there has been another large milestone, and that is that the Inclusion Council created a rotation process so that every year, as there are vacancies or people in their term on the Inclusion Council, we have the opportunity to bring new people into the council. And so this January, we had the opportunity, maybe it was February, to have our rotation of the new Inclusion Council. And I think everybody was excited that we could thank the people who launched the Inclusion Council and welcome the people who brought new energy and insight into the next phase of the work. And so we're looking forward to all of these things: the equity work group, the Inclusion Council, the work of the executive team, and with our coach, because they've extended that work for another 18 months. And also, I think another thing that contributes to this is the climate survey. And we have created the survey, fielded the first survey, and are in the process of really thinking about the results and how we want to improve the climate with the knowledge that we have from the survey. So there are numerous things that are going on that are focused on how do we have this environment of belonging and togetherness at the Health Policy Center. And I think these 4 sessions are a really integral and important part at this particular point in our journey. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Karen. I'm now going to walk us through some norms for,
Danny,
How
just
would-
1 second. I think
Yeah.
the view is set to,
oh,
for some reason we can't see you right now.
better?
It's not
Me.
the,
How about now?
I think it was just that Karen was pinned.
What about now?
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
I'm gonna walk us through some norms for the next 4 sessions and essentially some kind of guiding practices that we wish to follow in order to create this space together. The first one being one of the most important ones, and that we all carry wisdom. Erin and I do not approach this work at all from a teacher kind of mentee dynamic. We obviously come bearing knowledge that we have from our professional experience, but we also trust that all of you with your lived experience and also the context that you have working at GHPC will help to inform these sessions a lot more than we can ever do. And so we invite you all to bring that wisdom forward and to not hesitate to also share and build off of some of the work that we'll be doing. Number 2, seek first to understand, then to be understood. We will be inviting folks to share their lived experience, to get intimate, to get comfortable. And in order for folks to feel that safety, we ask that everybody seeks first to understand the lived experiences that differ from your own before trying to either defend and or explain your own experience. Next one is an important one that we often bold and highlight and underscore, that intention is much more important than impact. We invite folks to pay attention to how their words can impact others in these conversations, and most importantly, to how you make meaning of what others say to you. Sometimes, obviously, the intention wasn't there, but the intention was there, but the impact was not. And so we ask to keep that in mind as well. In order to work and dilute some of the power dynamics in the sessions, we ask that leaders listen first and be the last to speak in these sessions. This will help to shift some of the kind of obvious dynamics that even virtually we can't control, but will also allow for room for some ideas and voices to emerge that may not always have the opportunity to speak. And those are the folks that we really, really want to center during these conversations. Las Vegas rule, what is shared here stays here. People will be sharing, maybe a lot more than they will be in other working meetings and or sessions. And so we ask that you respect folks' privacy and not divulge whatever is shared in these meetings without consent. Be the expert of your experience. It's very easy to start speaking generally and globally and internationally, but ideally we can all be responsible for our own lived experience by using I statements. If you are not uncomfortable at any point during these 4 sessions, we are not doing our job at all. You're supposed to be kind of squirming in your seat a little bit. You're supposed to have, some form of feelings that arise. And so it's important that you take care of yourself in the process, particularly for the BIPOC folks, particularly for equity deserving folks. If you feel like at any point these conversations are triggering, we invite you to take care of yourself and step back. We invite you to change your mind at any point in the journey. If at any point before starting this, you thought differently, you are very welcome to think differently after a session. You're also very welcome to change your mind after these 4 sessions. The adaptability and agility that I think is a critical part of your work is also welcome in these sessions. Last, but certainly not the least, is that we ask you all to be radically, radically honest. It is not often that you get to share your points of views, that you get to share your experiences with leadership in the room. Obviously, it may be intimidating considering power dynamics again. However, as much as possible, we invite, and I think the executive team also invites you to speak freely and honestly in order for what Erin is mentioning as, you know, part of the emergence process to unfold. Oh, the last point, that's the last point, value shared humor. This work can be heavy sometimes, and not sometimes, all the time. It's okay to crack jokes. It's okay to make, you know, not make light of certain situations, obviously, but lighthearted comments are welcome when and if appropriate, obviously, but it doesn't always have to be heavy. We can have some fun along the way as well. We like to kickstart by just grounding in our knowledge and ensuring that we all are saying the same things when we say different words, and ensuring that different words mean the same thing to all of us. And so we like to walk through a little bit of a word matching game to kick off. So I like to have folks kind of see if they can identify the definition on the right with the word on the left. So I'm going to ask you either in the chat comments or if you can call them out. Definition number 1, what is procedural justice? An important note that these definitions are actually definitions that the Inclusion Council have defined as their work previously to us coming in, and that are, you know, the definitions included in the council charter that I believe will be shared with you at some folks, but essentially the work that guides the Inclusion Council's work, or the language that guides the Inclusion Council's work. So, just to note, someone asked the intention of the recording. So only sessions, I believe 1 and 4 are recorded for the folks who cannot attend. Because these are kind of all hands-on, and we understand that some folks are on vacation, we've asked that the first and last sessions be recorded just to hand those over. Sessions 2 and 3 will not be recorded. I hope that clarifies that, if anybody else has had that question. Okay, back to the chat. 1, if anybody got it, just type A, B, C, D. There you go. Yes. 1, when we speak of procedural justice, the Inclusion Council has defined procedural justice as fairness in processes as applied and as perceived by those affected. People's perception of fairness is strongly impacted by the quality as well as the end result of their experience. 2, equity. Yes. Fairness and access, opportunity, and advancement for all, underscore, bold, underline, italicize, all people. Diversity. The range of human differences, including but not limited to race, ethnicity, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, socioeconomic status, physical ability or attributes, religious or ethical value system, national origin, political beliefs, and cultures. And the last one being inclusion, the equal opportunity of all people to belong, achieve, and contribute. So you all got that. I'm just gonna bring these all. So in practicing procedural justice in the workplace requires that processes have logic that is made explicit. Decisions are transparent. Leaders apply decision-making rules impartially, and employees have opportunities for voice and are treated with dignity and respect. Inclusion Council defined promoting equity as identifying and eliminating barriers that have prevented the full participation of people from some groups, increasing procedural justice and assuring fairness in the distribution of resources. It requires recognizing and correcting the root causes of outcome disparities within our society. Valuing diversity means more than just acknowledging and or tolerating differences. It means consciously seeking to understand and appreciate the interdependence of humanity, cultures, and the natural environment. And an inclusive organization promotes and sustains a sense of belonging. It values and practices respect, where all people are recognized for their inherent worth and dignity, talent, beliefs, backgrounds, and ways of living. Okay. Before we move on, I really do want to take some time to honor the Inclusion Council in this work. They have spent, for some of them, up to 2 years working on this adamantly, defining these words that sometimes are just words, and really devoting their time and energy and resources outside of their actual roles. We just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that, because as you may know, EDI councils and or committees are oftentimes exhausting to operate in, particularly for BIPOC folks and or equity deserving folks. And so we appreciate their time and efforts. I note that while these words are great and beautifully defined, they only take on meaning when we engage with them personally. And so when we speak of justice, of equity, of diversity, of inclusion, what we really mean is, yes, thank you, Inclusion Council members, thank you, Deborah. Oop. What we really mean, or we really want to lead you folks to do, is to work on engaging with those definitions at a personal level first. What do these words mean to you first, as a human being, as a leader, as a co-worker? And so, as Erin explained, our sessions are very much designed to help you folks navigate through the self first and understanding what this means to you personally. We're then going to kind of move you up into the macro. Erin.
So in order for us to practice feeling how this information and these words, these definitions live with us and sit in our bodies, the first exercise that we're going to be moving through right now is really just checking in with how we're feeling. As we enter into this work, how are you feeling? We're going to be using a tool called Mentimeter in order to gather anonymous input and feedback. And we're going to be using the Mentimeter today in 3 different exercises. The first one is to answer this question: how are you feeling? So you'll be able to leave your responses. Danny, can you click through? Because for some reason I can't control screen.
There you go.
Thank you. So what we'd like you to do is go to menti.com. I'll drop this also in the chat, menti.com, and then you'll enter code 69414048. Both of these have been dropped into the comment or into the chat box. And it's a very simple tool. Leave as many responses as you'd like. Check in with yourself, feel into your body. How are you feeling as we enter into this? Remember that with the Mentimeter, whenever we're using this tool, everything is anonymous.
Anxious, tired, hopeful, skeptical, excited, distracted, interested, drained, a little apprehensive. Yeah. Questioning authenticity. Enlightened, stressed, discouraged, hesitant, willing. untrusting, a bit overwhelmed, apprehensive, mentally tired, cautious, concerned, wonder, frustrated, interested in long term, a bit tired, ready, okay, eager. Thank you for sharing. I'll bring us back to this screen. So, as you all noticed, a lot of people are feeling a lot of different things. Each of those things being each of those feelings rather being extremely, extremely valid. So what Erin and I, our hope with these sessions is really to create, as we said, for all these feelings to coexist together as we navigate this work. And take us a little bit further from EDI, leaning into belonging, because belonging is the thread that holds all of these feelings together. Every single thing that came up on that screen, every single feeling, every single hesitation, a culture of belonging is one that ultimately holds all of those feelings. Our work with belonging versus othering is inspired by the Berkeley Institute and the work of Professor John Powell, who is a wonderful, wonderful Black man leading this work at Berkeley. And he often speaks of the notions of belonging versus othering. Othering being the process of denying someone's full humanity, dignity, and respect. We are obviously familiar with kind of extreme forms of othering if we think about colonialism, if we think about slavery, if we think about redlining, Jim Crow. The examples in America are quite literally endless. But othering in the context of this particular workplace and sessions that we're in today, oftentimes creep up in subtle, subtle ways before they become systemic ones. So they creep up in the ways that we interact with one another. They keep up with who we befriend, who we promote, who we hire, who we protect, how we hold space for these conversations. And oftentimes, a lot of people think that saming is the solution to othering. And so if everybody becomes the same, then that will address othering. Saming being the recognizing that people are not quite like us, but they could become a little bit like us if they tried really hard enough. And so a certain group becomes the standard, and others need to prove that they're like that group. And unless they prove that they are like that group, then they will not be considered worthy of promotion, worthy of belonging, worthy of you name it. Really, what we are looking for here and trying to do through this work is imagining what belonging looks like. And so we would like to take a moment to have a look at this visual of exclusion, segregation, inclusion, and think about what belonging how would belonging be depicted on this diagram? So if you look at exclusion, we have a container and folks are placed outside of that container. In segregation, folks are in the container, but grouped together. In inclusion, you have everybody kind of everywhere. And belonging looks like this. Mariana says, better analogy than melting pot, gumbo, which ingredient adds to the whole but maintain their identity. Yes, Lavon, all the same color, interesting. I've heard a tossed salad is a good analogy too, yes. So if we look at belonging, belonging is actually, there is no container. So If you look at exclusion, segregation, and inclusion, they are all kind of fitting together within this set container. Everybody, even in inclusion, if we think of inclusion, it's everybody who is included fits within the container. In belonging, we are holding space for folks to break out of the container so that everybody, regardless of where they belong on this container, regardless of whether or not they feel what we feel, can belong in a group and can feel like they can show up fully. We're going to take you back to Mentimeter. Mentimeter. Is it Mentimeter? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Menti.com and enter the code 6941.
For those of you who have the tab still open, you can just stay on the same page. And when we switch the slide, you'll have access to the next question.
Okay. Erin, can I switch the slide? Do you have access to it?
Click on the page or use the arrows.
It's not switching. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
So we're going to ask you folks to identify where you believe GHPC lands on this spectrum from exclusion to belonging. Okay. Interesting. We'll just pause here as folks take the time to answer and just observe. Okay. Has everybody answered that wishes to answer?
Cool. See the comment?
Yeah.
The shift to primarily remote work makes answering this question a little difficult.
Thank you for naming that, Tanner. Is everybody else? Oh yeah, Kenna agrees. Margaret says, it'd be interesting to see this stratified by folks who worked in person at some point versus those only working here remotely. It's hard to say. Agreed. I agree, good point. That's a good point. Thank you for naming that.
We do it a second time. Could we do it again and say, like, you know, okay, only those of you that have worked at GHPC prior to COVID answer, we'll do it. And then, okay, now those of you that have just been working at GHPC since COVID, you answer. Could we do that?
Erin, can you reset? Do you know?
We could reset. There are a couple steps we need to go through. So maybe what we can do is send out the question after the session.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll do
Absolutely.
that. We'll send it out and have you folks, the folks who have answered or who have worked at GHPC pre-virtual answer versus the ones who have yet to maybe even meet in person, because that is a very good point and one that obviously I think many organizations across the globe are facing. Back to our slide deck, but an interesting point to notice here is that belonging, nobody kind of selected belonging as a point, which is really what we are hoping that these sessions kick off for you. Whether you've been working at GHPC for X amount of years, whether you are a new employee, we really, really hope that, you know, other than EDI work as we know it, we shift towards cultivating belonging, that really truly the end to other versus, you know, saming and inclusion. Inclusion is great, it's important, but taking it further than that, we would like everybody, old, new, from a working context to feel like they can shift. When we speak of belonging, we are speaking of a sense of affinity to a group that stems from the recognition, the co-creation, and the celebration of uniqueness. A good example that Erin and I stumbled upon the other day is that, if you're going to a party and you tell everyone, okay, I'm planning a party, come to my party, you're invited to my party. Everyone can show up at the party, and that could be a sense of inclusion. We're all at the party. But cultivating a sense of belonging would be, I would like to plan a party. Can we all meet in order to ensure who brings what the party music will be like, what are we eating that day? That is belonging. The difference here being the co-creation element and the celebration of uniqueness. In
And
order
we
to
have-
oh, yeah.
Sorry, we have a question from Chris in the
Yes.
chat.
Chris says, got to had a previously scheduled client meeting, but curious, how much does churn expectation, thinking that we are thinking that we are only at the organization for a bit and then we'll move on to something else, impact belonging in organization? Does it depend on type of organization? We'll start with that question first, and then we'll move on to the next one. Erin, do you want to take that first?
Sure. I would say that the culture of an organization is constantly shifting. And our work here is less about trying to completely define it or nail it down, and more so to recognize that it is always going to shift with people coming in and out, with changing demands, with changing societal contextual sort of pieces. Yeah. So I think the notion here with the work that we're trying to do is to cultivate practices and ways of being that encourage belonging, and not so much to nail down the culture of belonging. It's really about the practices that will enable more of a sense of belonging. And we want to give you an opportunity to recognize the fact that the culture will constantly be shifting. That's what I would say to that.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I think that, someone mentioned earlier, adaptability and agility being kind of key notions to GHPC's work. I think as it pertains to cultivating a culture of belonging and equity work, it really is a question of constantly checking in with folks, back to the element of co-creating, as the culture shifts, to identify if it's still fitting for them. What do folks need? How are folks feeling? Are the current norms and practices and procedures, do they still feel just to the folks right now? Do they still feel just to the social context that we are facing? And then constantly reiterating. And that's how innovation work happens. Innovation is constantly revisiting, getting feedback, iterating, getting feedback, revisiting, iterating. And that kind of perpetual willingness really to adapt to changing circumstances is ultimately how belonging happens. For some people more than others naturally, and that's also okay.
And to Michelle's point in the chat, Michelle says, it also seems that it could go the other way, that organizations that foster belonging causes staff to want to stay longer. Absolutely.
Before Michelle's point, actually, Community Health Systems Development Team, I don't know what your real name is, but just the thought that working remotely often provides a buffer to the microaggressions and hierarchical cliques that often occur in the workplace that persons of color and other marginalized persons experience. Absolutely. And I think in some ways, a lot of people of color and marginalized folks, kind of feel a sense of relief, to be honest, about working remotely, and maybe even feel like they belong more by not going into the office. And that's also okay. REA. I'm not sure what REA is. Indicate that psychological safety, a sense of belonging, is one of the key predictors for retention. Absolutely. Colleen, regardless, someone should experience belonging even if they're only within the organization for a short period of time. If longevity or perceived longevity is necessary, then the organization is not cultivating belonging. I agree with that as well. Thank you all for those points, and please keep engaging and adding your wisdom. It really does enrich the sessions. So back to co-creating a feeling of belonging, we need the following. Agency, so a sense of how you as individual or group can have impact. Power, so really the capacity to affect change. Care, love, and empathy. And care not just about your group, but about all the members of the group. And a sense of responsibility for our group being GHPC, not just your team, not just your clique at GHPC, but that everybody here is responsible for culture. Everybody here is responsible for equity work. To a certain extent, obviously, the leadership team and folks in power have to bear that weight a little bit more. But if we can all do our parts within the microcosms and areas of impact that we all individually have, that's how culture shifts. This is also kind of reflective of how we will be navigating the sessions from beginning to end. So self, community, systemic. Okay, back to Mentimeter.
So with this exercise, what we're going to be doing in that practice of radical honesty that Danny mentioned early on, as she was sharing the norms of the session, is we're going to be exploring what we believe currently are the barriers to cultivating a culture of belonging at GHPC. There are a few that have been hinted at already in the chat. Again, feel free to be very honest. And we can also take some time with this exercise. So feel free to contemplate it. If you want a little bit of time to process, come up with your answer. We'll give a little bit of space here for this exercise so you all have a chance to contribute in the ways that make sense for you.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm going to start reading these out loud. We have demonizing of those with more conservative perspectives, resistance from the old guard. GHPC consistently tries to function the same way they did as a smaller organization, when the number of staff is around 20 or so. The power is held by a small group of people who ensure that the system is working for them. Lack of transparency about decision-making, stuck in old practices. The GHPC way is the only way, also entrenched leadership. Disconnected from others outside of immediate team. The culture of the HPC with the layers and silos, working in silos, self-righteousness, forcing political correctness and virtual signaling. Okay. I'm gonna let the answers kind of continuously pour in. I note that we will be collecting these answers in order to work back with the leadership team and really kind of hold them accountable to what we are hearing in these sessions. So outside of the sessions in their groups of the 4 sessions, the leadership team and the executive team will also be meeting with us separately post sessions to help debrief what's coming up. And for us to kind of continue working on accountability and ensuring that what we are seeing and hearing from these sessions can be turned into concrete actions.
Note here also, as you read through some of these answers, which can feel heavy, is that there's no way for us to build or to take steps towards our new way of being and towards our new ways of relating until we acknowledge where it is that we are now and recognize the context of the culture, the current culture at GHPC. So I want to thank everybody for your honesty here. because it allows everybody to start at the same place.
Okay. I'm going to take us back. No, not share. Okay. Now that, oh, Aaron, it's still you, actually, go ahead.
Well, I want to, because we actually have a little bit of extra time here. I want to take a moment because we were just looking at that big screen with Menti, and I'm wondering if we can pull it back up.
For
Give us
sure.
all an opportunity to just kind of
Sit with it.
sit with it. Yeah.
Sure.
Take our time with some of those answers. And thanks.
Oh, I didn't mean to separate that. Do you see this?
Yep.
Great.
Maybe you could scroll us through slowly. Thank you. Hmm. Hmm. I'm curious how everyone is feeling as you're reading through this. If there's anyone willing, we'd love to hear from you in the comments, in the chat. How does this sit for you? How does it land to see everybody else's responses?
So I will kind of piggyback on what I already said about working remotely. I feel like when I was in the office, you could at times like literally feel the tension that existed. And since I've been working remotely, I certainly, again, to other people's point, haven't felt that as much. But my portfolio is very much on one team. Seeing these comments where everything's kind of hunky-dory from where I sit just brings me back to when we were in the office, and that this tension hasn't gone away necessarily. Things aren't necessarily better, that it's definitely still existing. It might not be impacting my everyday life as much. But clearly it's still a big issue.
Thank you so much for jumping in.
Recording in progress.
Would anyone else like to jump in?
I don't know if it's your echo. Ashley, did you want to know? Was it somebody who was speaking? No. A note on Dami, who mentioned, Dami, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Longe, Dame. Yes, okay. Thank you, Dame, for naming that, and for, I'm just gonna reiterate Erin's point around the importance of honesty in these moments, and navigating through these moments and the feelings that arise. They are tricky and they're extremely uncomfortable, but really you can't get through, just like in our interpersonal interactions, you cannot get through the conflict without addressing what needs to get solved. Bill mentioned that there seems to be a disconnect between this and the climate survey results. Why weren't these reflected or captured in the climate survey? Bill, maybe a concern about the anonymity of responses to the climate survey. And there are no open-ended questions on the survey. Can I scroll back up? Yes, I can. We also observed this discrepancy in the climate survey. And oftentimes when it comes to, equity work, surveys don't necessarily capture the entirety of experience. It really requires space for folks to share anonymously and safely. Maybe Anna, we're seeing the same things. Qualitative over quantitative. You will always get a little bit more on how folks are truly feeling if you ask them straight up.
I also want to note that there is no organization that we have worked with that doesn't have something to say at this point. This is not, solely for GHPC. These are the sorts of dynamics that exist everywhere. So I want to normalize what's coming up here, where we acknowledge it and it's important for us to see it. But I also want to create the space for you all to recognize that these are challenges that a lot of people are facing and a lot of people are strategizing around and actively engaging in. So our work over the next sessions and beyond are going to be about taking intentional steps and planting intentional seeds around the different themes that we're seeing within these responses.
Whenever you're ready, Ari, let me know.
I think we just have one more comment from Lay.
So 2 things people shared with me about the climate survey were concerns over anonymity and wanting of open-ended questions. And then Jay says, just in general, I feel skeptical in these exercises and conversations. It can feel inauthentic for me as a queer person of color because it feels like it's an exercise, not a trait that people are trying to build into their identity. Oh, absolutely. I resonate with that deeply, Jay, and Erin and I often have these conversations. Even as a practitioner in the space, trust me that oftentimes I'm skeptical leading these sessions, but I am also hopeful, and I'm also aware that these steps are important to moving us forward. And I've also seen how this work done really well can truly be transformative, but only if it's done with intention, and only if it's done with radical honesty, and only if it's done with, all the candor and the respect and the willingness in the world. But I hear and hold space for your skepticism, and I'm right there with you sometimes. Okay. Back to Mentimeter.
Actually, this one is going to be a personal reflection for this next question. Now that we've had an opportunity to hear from some of our peers' input, now that we've heard from Danny about a culture of belonging, now that we've gotten a chance to establish shared language as it pertains to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, what we'd like you to do is to reflect personally on what justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging mean for you. We can't see the question on the screen right now, Danny.
Oh, sorry, I had to split.
So the question is, what does justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging mean for me? This is really just opening up the processing for you here. I would invite you to allow whatever it is that surfaces to surface. Find yourself a place to write your notes down. And this is going to be an ongoing conversation that you're going to be having with yourself and with your peers. So again, just allow whatever it is that comes up to come up. Find yourself a place to write. And let's do 5 minutes of quiet contemplation, some reflection for ourselves individually. I'll write the question down in the chat. Danny, if you could share sound. Merci.
It's shared. Do you want me to bring the volume up?
If you could unshare and reshare, I think that would be good, because right now we're hearing it as though it's not connected. Yep.
Maybe I don't ever wanna live alone in a country town down in Texas. The memory of you. Mary Ellen, Mary Ellen, Mary Ellen, Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen, Mary Ellen, Mary Ellen, Mary Deeply miss your love when I'm far away in another place. All that I dream of just is your pillow, waiting for your love. You in all the ways, in another place. All I'm thinking of, just can't get enough. You, and I be everywhere I go.
Let's do one more minute of contemplation.
When I found love, reach for into days. Though I'm far away, your fantasy I love, just can't get enough. May not be everywhere I go. You stay on my mind wherever I go. Deeply miss your love when I'm far away in another place. Heart it have to move, but just as your pillow, waiting for your love. You in all the ways, in another place. All I'm thinking of, just can't get enough.
Okay. Harsh stop, DJ. All right. So very curious how that question landed. It was a big one. What we'd like to do at this point is to give you an opportunity to join some peers and to exchange about what came up. Danny, are we good for breakouts?
You're good for breakouts. I'm gonna have to
Okay,
stop
great.
share.
So we are going to be breaking you out into groups of 4.
Yes.
Okay. And we want to give you an opportunity to share about what came up or not to share, to just listen, knowing full well that this is an enormous question and that as we were saying before, there's going to be a lot of processing about this over the next many weeks. And there's going to be a lot that's going to arise outside of this session, outside of this moment. Obviously, you've just had 5 minutes to look at that big question. So enter into this group share in a way that feels right for you. Don't feel any pressure to take it anywhere that you don't want to take it. We're going to do about 8 minutes in the group. You'll have 4 of you, so take turns for those who want to be sharing. And then once you get back here, we're going to be doing an open exchange to see what came up. All right, enjoy. See you soon.
Erin included us, I think, in breakout rooms.
Do you want us to be in conversation?
I think it's too late to, unless we leave.
I still have the prompt, but I think I want to let the team kind of do their thing.
Okay, so we can remove ourselves then. Oh, no, I think that might be,
For those of you who are still with us, you might have missed your prompt to join the breakout. There is up on the toolbar down in the bottom, you'll see the word more with 3 dots up above it. And if you hover over that, there's a button to join breakout room.
I think this might be a breakout room. Or it might be people who, oh, no, maybe not.
Well, we could have a breakout, the 4 of us.
Are Lakeisha and Sophie, are you actually here or are your screens open? I'm not sure. They stepped aside.
You're doing an excellent job, Denny. How are you feeling?
I feel great. Grounded.
Good. So for time check-in, we're on breakout until 45.
Okay.
Actually,
Hi.
Hi, Japara.
hi.
Hi. Was this supposed to be 4 people? Because we have 18 people in our room.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, room 118. Oh my gosh. Yes. No, let me close everyone. I feel bad though, because people probably started sharing.
No, we didn't, because we were all skeptical. And
Okay.
we were sort of wondering about why the group was so large. So we
You each get
Hi.
15 seconds to share.
Obviously, you realized our error. We will break you back out into smaller groups. You are definitely not meant to be 20 people sharing in one room. So apologize for the confusion there. I hope folks didn't start sharing.
No, we haven't gotten started yet.
Okay, great. We'll just wait for everybody to arrive back. For folks who are returning back, there's a little bit of a mishap. So we're trying to break everybody out into smaller groups and not groups of 18 to 20. So we will break everybody back out once more. I think some folks are still in their rooms. Okay, everyone's coming back in. Okay, sorry folks, breaking you out again into smaller groups, not 20 people. Sorry for the confusion. Give me 1 second.
Thank you for letting us know, Japara.
No problem. It's Japare, long A on the end.
Japare, thank you.
Okay, how many are we roughly? We are about 70 people, so. Okay, or do the math for me.
70
Yeah,
divided by 4?
yes.
17?
Yeah, I was just thinking 18. Yeah, thank you, Russell. I'm so sorry, Laquita. Thank you for staying this long, and we'll be seeing you in the next sessions, hopefully. Minus ourselves, yes. Thank you, Michelle. We will not include ourselves. Okay, going back out.
I think I might be a co-host accidentally, and so I don't see a room to join.
You can, if you click on more.
Down in the bottom right.
Oh, you know what? I can join a room. I think I'll just join one of the ones that has 3 people. I think I can just join for there.
Can you do it?
I think so.
Does that work?
Thanks, Savita.
There you go.
So Danny, time-wise, there's open share and mirror mapping. But there was also supposed to be radical imagining. So Yeah, no, right now we're about, it was my bad. I thought we had the full time, but we actually are about like 8 minutes
Yeah.
ahead. So
So
my
maybe
thinking,
yeah, no, go ahead.
my thinking is we pull them back in 3 minutes or so. We do open share and mirror mapping about the question. And then as things kind of like teeter out, we transition the conversation into visualizing what could be and some of their aspirations, and keep it as an open share.
Okay, got it. So no meditation, just kind of.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are you okay with that?
I'm fine.
Because the meditation takes about 5 minutes. So if we transition into more of the aspirational sort of, what would you like this to look like?
Yeah.
And then we need about 4 minutes for our closing for talking about next steps. So that would be at about 55. Right now it's 44.
Okay.
Technology. 18 people in one breakout.
I literally, you know what the question is like? I always confuse it. It asks you like, how many breakout rooms do you want? And me, I'm thinking, how many people do you want? So I'm like, 4 people.
Oh.
Like, no, you want 4 breakout rooms.
So there were 4 groups of 18 people.
Exactly. Hilarious.
Hey, well.
I'm gonna come get some water quickly.
Yep. Oh, really? Yeah. As long as he's comfy. I think so. When you get back in there, do you want to give him the 1 minute? Yes. Okay.
No, you're with me.
Phew.
No, it's one group asked for help, so I jumped in.
Okay. It's like, oh my God.
They essentially wanted more time because of the mishap. So I said
Yes.
2 more minutes.
Okay.
So I'll message. Where are the breakout rooms? Why can't I find them? Actually, message him. The sun is hitting me.
The blinds, there's like a pulley all the way on the right.
Yeah, I see it. I kind of enjoy it though.
Okay. So we'll do about, once they're back, like 7 minutes of open share. And then just 3 minutes of closing and what comes next.
Sure.
Essentially just slide 33, which is our next slide. And then jump 2 slides ahead and go to 36. Next up.
Okay, so no sharing?
No, well, this slide 32 is for the sharing. What does justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, belonging mean
Okay,
to
got
us?
it. And then I go 33 and 36. Okay.
33 and then 36. Yeah.
Yep.
Where are we at now, time-wise?
I said 48 and 50, so now. Hello again.
Hey,
Back. Welcome back.
thank you.
We pulled everybody out of there pretty quick. Hello, everybody who's joining us once again.
Sorry for having to cut it so short. We just want to be very mindful of everyone's time, but we'll be able to continue the discussion here slowly.
Okay, people are slowly coming back in. Great. We're good to go.
Okay, so again, apologies for the mishap, and I know that it's not a lot of time, but we want to be mindful of your time and end you as close to 5 as possible. So we'd love to hear what came up in some of your groups, if folks are open to sharing in terms of what Jedi means to some of you at a personal level, or what you heard in your group. Mic's open. Floor is open. Mic or floor? Both.
Well, I'll just start. In our group, we talked a little bit about the difference between inclusion and belonging, and that it's, you know, it's sort of easy to include people. I can invite people to a party at my house, but it'll take some work on my part for them to feel like they belong. And that for belonging, you really need level setting, knowledge sharing, and you know that people at GHPC are hired for various reasons, but that hiring is bringing them in. But once someone is in, it really takes like work and training to give them a sense of belonging, and that inclusion is not equal to belonging. That's what we talked about. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that, Bill. Does anyone else want to go?
I'll go, but it won't be the answer that to the question, but I know what it's like to wait for someone else to go speak up. I think that for our group, we really spent time just unpacking what some of the things we had just read from our colleagues, because we hadn't had a chance to even process that. So for us, we didn't get to the question because we were just reconnecting, because we haven't done that in a while, and then sort of just debriefing about what we heard. That felt really important to us to do.
Thank you, Lay. Am I pronouncing your name right? Lay.
Lee.
Lee, wow.
But I get called
Lee.
Lael. It's okay. You're not the first. You won't be the last, but I appreciate you asking.
Give us one session with y'all. I promise you we'll get it.
All good.
Hi, I'll speak up next. This is Jeff Ray. Hi to colleagues that I haven't yet met. I don't know that we either got to a definition or we're describing how we were understanding the term, but I'll share something that I've been grappling with personally is not necessarily at the Georgia Health Policy Center, but in this larger conversation of belonging and inclusion. I keep asking, well, why would I want to be included in broken systems? And so when you showed that picture earlier, you kind of showed belonging as not containerized. It was different. It was supposed to be unique and separate from inclusion and diversity and other things, those other images you had up there. And so I think it left me with a lingering question of, are we going into a process of some larger organizational change, of some larger systems change? Or is this really, how is it distinct from some of the other images that you showed us? So we didn't answer the question. That's where I'm personally entering this space and wanting to understand belonging into what? Is this an existing structure? Is this a new structure? And what does that mean for how we approach our work going forward?
And it's such a great question, Japara, and a great reflection.
Japare.
Japare. I will get it. I think our work here is, as much as possible, we would love to accompany organizations in transformation rather than EDI work. EDI work really is what we see as kind of the tip of the iceberg, and I think can help folks to feel a little bit safer. I think ultimately, to your point, what really needs to happen in order for this work to be transformative, and we'll be exploring that in our last, I think our third session, the difference between transactional and transformative change, and really the structural shifts that need to happen in order for these things to really take place. I think that ultimately the organizational change, that the extent to which the organizational change can happen will highly depend on the leadership team's ability and willingness to hear what you folks are taking from these sessions and transform them into concrete actions. All we can do here is accompany you on the relay race and hope that we can hold the leadership team accountable to the next steps. So I don't know if that's a direct question. Erin, do you want to add to that? A direct answer?
Well, I was just going to say, at this point, I think the hope for us was not to bring you to a place of a conclusion with that group share at all. It was really just about touching base, and the fact that now we are digging into questions of, why would I want to be included in a broken system? And if we're talking about belonging to what? These are the sorts of questions that we want to be surfacing. And it's completely normal at this point if we're not surfacing answers, but we're surfacing more questions. So thank you for naming those.
Absolutely,
Yes.
Michelle.
Yeah. Yeah. I also heard from that share, and I think it was Lee that mentioned it, that we need time to process, to reconnect, to debrief about what we are hearing. Absolutely. This is not just a process or a program about learning concepts. This is a process and a program about reconnecting, taking time, taking space, creating moments of reflection inside these sessions with us specifically, as well as outside of them, because so much will arise outside of the sessions. So Danny and I have space for what comes up here, what new questions you present to us, but also what comes up outside of these sessions, if ever you want to reach out. Absolutely hear that, Jeffrey. Pardon me?
I said the same thing, yeah.
Yeah. So
Jay also mentioned, just quickly, that their group talked about having systems in place that feel safe to talk about when exclusivity occurs or when people are made to feel they don't belong, and having enough people in place for that role that everyone and anyone can feel safe reporting those issues. I may not feel safe reporting to the same person my colleague feels safe with. Very good point. Okay. So we initially wanted to close with a little bit of what the Berkeley Institute calls radical imagination exercise, where we have folks just kind of envision, quite literally, eyes closed, a moment of mindfulness, what this work, the end goal or the outcome of this work would look like. What are we working towards here? Given time, and given that I know that folks are maxed, I'm going to put that question out into this group right here and really ask what folks are hoping for. What does a radically transformed new quote unquote GHPC feel like and look like to you? So we spoke about, Jay mentioned having systems in place. If you're to close your eyes and kind of project GHPC in 2, 5, 10 years as a space that feels safe and equitable, and where you can thrive professionally and personally, what does that look and feel like to you, folks?
are there any keywords that come to mind that you'd like to share? Trust.
It's a big one, Jay. Taking time to reflect what it means to be quote unquote safe at your occupation. Thank you, Tony. Systems in place that are consistent across teams, a more secure environment that fosters trust. Opportunities for growth and contribution. So again, if we're taking time to reflect and really sit in our bodies as a somatic experience, what does a safe workplace look and feel like to you personally? Humility, accountability, opportunities for fellowship with one another. Transparency. Respect. Okay. Erin, did you want to add to that?
I was going to say, in an effort to give you all time and space to process this and to ensure that we hear what's coming up, what we will do as part of the closing for this session is to send out the Mentimeter once again, so that you can answer, see the responses, and we'll also add a few different questions in there for those of you who want to answer some of the questions that we just went over with a little bit more time to process. And I've mentioned it a couple of times, but Danny and I are very open to hearing. If ever any of you want to reach out, share an email, a note, we're very open to receiving and holding space for whatever it is that comes up.
So we're going to close on a note that, on a notion of belonging versus othering, Professor Powell often talks about how, when you're in the face of so much change that we are all collectively facing, so demographic change, systemic change, the pandemic, technology change, so much challenges tend to lead to othering. Historically, that's what we've witnessed. And so we can either use this moment collectively to break, or we can use this moment to bridge. Breaking entails othering, it entails fear, it entails essentially kind of giving in to what these systems were designed to do. Bridging entails the humility, the transparency, the accountability, and the hard work that these conversations and these sessions are designed to lead you folks into. And so we hope that we can bring you a little bit further on the bridge, and that some questions can be answered, not all, that some questions can emerge, that some ideas can emerge, that some healing can emerge, and that you folks can walk out of here a little bit more connected to self and to each other. So next session, we'll examine critical self-reflection, as Erin mentioned earlier, diving deeper into power, privilege, and understanding our roles. And this will be in smaller groups that we will try to keep together, more intimate groups. The leadership team will also be part of these intimate groups. And so we ask that we continue these moments of radical honesty despite the power dynamics that will be amplified by being in a smaller space. But we welcome all of your feelings, and thank you so much for sharing honestly, for showing up, for blocking time and energy. Erin and I are always available. We can share our emails with everybody for feedback, for ideas, recommendations, you name it.
I just dropped our shared email into the chat. We both received the emails that go to that address, hello@newroom.group, which is also on the slide deck. We will follow up with the mentees so that you can get a sense of all of the results, and you can have an opportunity, if you choose to share some additional thoughts that arose. Thank you so much for being here and for taking the time.
Great evening, everybody.
Bye, bye, bye. It's nice to see everyone's face.
Thank you. Thank you, Isis. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, damn it. Okay. You told me long I swear to God.
Jay, if you're still with us, thank you so much for the engagement.
Yes, I actually messaged them.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you,
I
thank
love
you, thank
Jay.
you. Thank you.
Jay's on my team. Hey, girl.
What a great team
Hey,
you have.
Right.
Bye, y'all.
See you in a couple of weeks. Do you want to stop the recording?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep this open so that we can grab comments, but I've been screenshotting